Mobile Tech RX, the app that helps you make more money.
Don't forget to grab your Magnatech mat, available at most PDR tool distributors. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of PDR Tool Time. This is episode 257. I'm your host, Vince D'Alessandro, along with John Renstrom, Daniel Grom, and Hudson Tanzi. This is going to be an episode that we're recording the night before. We had our podcast ready to go in the morning on Tuesday like it normally is, but we're taking a little bit of a different road, and we will be broadcasting that next week with Jan Ontrop and PDR Contractors. So make sure you tune into that episode. That was supposed to air right now, but this is something that is more live and needs more immediate attention, and that is what's going on with the tool discussion out there between different companies and copying and stuff like that. So we figured the four of us would take this moment to do this podcast and really talk about that and different topics that has to do with copywriting and whatnot. So what's up, guys?
Okay. Shall I start this out by just reading what has kicked this whole thing off right quick?
Yeah. We just started getting into a conversation and we're like, hey, our listeners need to hear this. Let's record a podcast. So that's how it came about.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
And also, before you read that, John, I think we should all say, Vince does work for a tool company. So we will respect Vince in the sense that we're not going to ask him to give much opinion from this. You're going to hear mostly from Daniel and I, and possibly John doesn't own much Stanliner, but Daniel and I do. So you'll probably be hearing more from Daniel and I this episode. So yeah.
Okay, so on February 5th, Stanliner released an official statement stating, "Dear friends, customers, and colleagues, our company is known globally as a small but very innovative brand. All designs are very unique, developed through decades, and created by one person, the founder of Stanliner, Kaz. Because of the versatility of Stanliner tools and techniques, the PDR industry has reached a whole new level. We are proud to represent the high standard of business morality and respect for the entire PDR community. The individuality of our tools cannot be replicated overnight, only plagiarized. We are disappointed that others may not feel the same way. Because of recent events, we have made the decision to terminate our partnership with A1 Tool. They will continue to sell Stanliner tools while supplies last. The recent project involving A1 Tool, Excalibur, and Dent Reaper has been developed by copying the concepts of Stanliner Pirate Hook tool, the Stanliner Crane tool. Changing minor details such as an arch shaft does not change the overall concept. We wanted to bring this issue to the entire community because we feel it is inexcusable behavior and we do not take this lightly. These sorts of actions harm the integrity of our community and our industry. To our supporters, thank you. We strive to make you proud to support our brand every day. Thomas and Kazmieris."
Yeah, so I think this deserves attention and a conversation. Personally, as a tool designer, I see both sides. I've been plagiarized before too, but my one fear is that people that will stifle innovation. And because everybody's afraid of, it's too close to this. But if you look at copyright or patent, a patent says if a design is changed 30%, that it is a new design. So that's where our discussion, I think, should start off is this design 30% different. Now, Hudson, nobody's got their hands on this tool, right?
No. The only thing we haven't yet to get an executioner set. What we do know is I called John Vadine to have a conversation with him to ask him everything I could about the executioner set and what would make Stanliner take this position. And the thing is the executioners are hood and deck sets. They're meant for horizontal panels. and and they fit into the smaller holes and things like that you would deal with in a hood and deck. As many of us know, the pirate hook that Stanliner refers to and the crane tool, those are not hood and deck sets that you're going to be fitting into small holes and things like that. So it's completely different use.
So do you think Stanliner jumped the gun without putting their hands on the tool and actually comparing it to theirs to see, they were just looking at a picture?
Yeah. So from what I've heard, and we haven't spoken to Stanliner, so this is all just from what we heard. Stanliner has not seen these tools in person. They've only seen photos. So I believe they did jump the gun in making this statement without having something in there. And then there was further explanation from a guy who's very close with Stanliner S. He made a full-on statement basically saying that John Vadine with Dent Reaper had gone to a Stanliner event and brought a Dent Reaper and showed him, and then like someone had made a suggestion from Stanliner, like, oh well, why don't you just make this, it swoop out a little bit more, that way you can use the back of it as well. And John was like, wow, that's a great idea. Next thing you know, we have Reaper rods, right? Now it's weird to me, and so that was considered, I from what I've heard from what S's explanation, that was not Thomas or Kaz that made that suggestion. It was someone else in the Stanliner, influential group there. They're one of their leaders that made that. And Thomas and Kaz were not happy with them giving another tool company that suggestion. So
I add a little something here.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
We are, Hudson, it's a fascinating story. This is a third-hand account.
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I was there at that event.
Oh, okay.
I was
Did
there.
you hear any of this?
I touched these tools that are in my hand, the Dent Reaper rods, at that event before they were ever manufactured. They were brought out to, just out in the parking lot to show and stuff like that. And John Vidine had, looking for opinions of people, and there's nothing wrong with that. We beta test everything all the time. So yeah, I have one in my hand right now. This is the Reaper rod, the smaller Reaper rod. And I'm not quite sure where the Stanliner-esque part comes from. The backside is smooth, but if this would be a Stanliner, it'd be more of a blade, and it's not a blade. It's just smooth on the back.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things I don't know where S is coming from for that. And believe me, I love S. He's a great guy. I talked to him yesterday too. So yeah.
So what's your opinion of, okay, this tool is sharp. All the tools I've seen from Stanliner are dull. Is that a 30% change? Just making a sharp tip.
Well, I honestly, I would balk at your argument there a little bit, Daniel, because in all honesty, none of these tools are patented. So who cares?
No, I know that. I'm saying that there's a rule.
Yeah,
and
I get what you're saying.
Can reflect on that rule as, hey, is there a 30% change as a rule?
Let's step down this patent road for one quick second. We have received a photo of a patent that was applied for October 18th, 1949 from a William H. Ferguson. And that patent would be number 2,485,488 is for a tool for the reshaping of automobile panels.
There is a buttload of those, not just one. I've seen them.
But this one looks like
like a Reaper rod.
No, Jeff McGill himself from Beach Cities PDR actually has a whole bunch of those framed on his wall in his dent shop. So and they look exactly like every tool that's in their toolbox.
Yeah,
I can believe it. And now this patent was filed September 7th, 1945.
Yeah.
So that kind of discusses the age that this argument has really been going on. I mean, we're talking almost a century now.
Yeah.
And I understand Stanliner wanting to defend their ideas and stuff, and because that's valuable, and I get it. I totally get it.
Let's what is the technique that Stanliner has brought to the forefront of the PDR industry that they can be proud of is the kind of the swiping motion, right? The motion of it's not swiping.
He more massages the dent out by, instead of poking at
dragging.
the dent, it's more of a moving it and
it's just like dancing.
Yeah.
He also has a samurai. The samurai technique is not massaging; it's rapid dribbling of the tool.
Yeah, he has a few techniques.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But I haven't taken any Stanliner courses.
Yeah.
Or do I own any Stanliner tools? But I will say, of the photo that Thomas had posted up, I can see of the blatant shape of both sets of tools where he's coming off. But when I actually look at the tips, the Stanliner tools are still different. Like the Pirate Hook Mini, they both have a little fatterness to the whole end of them, whereas it looks like the Executioner set is much thinner and much sharper. I don't think you're going to really be able to do a push and drag with the Executioner tools.
No. I mean, from what I can tell, the diameter is way too small.
The mini Pirate Hook is not a dragging tool either. It's not curved like the Pirate Hook that Hudson's showing in this example.
I'm thinking the Executioners are more of an aluminum panel, sharper tip tool, like Hudson was referring to. It's a different tool.
We should add there are two different sets of Executioner tools now, and I've included these in the show notes. There is an arched set and a straight shaft set. And then when we're into the Stanliner tools, the tools that we're discussing is the Pirate Hook Mini, the Crane Straight, and then the regular Pirate Hook.
Yeah. So here's what I was saying earlier is Stanliner takes great pride in them bringing up the dragging to the forefront, right? Before, like when I was trained, it was like, say if you're doing a crease, right? Way I learned fixing a crease is you go in there and poke all along the lines, and then you put your board and you kind of knock down a little bit, and then you put your board back, and then you go and you make poke marks in between the poke marks, right? You stitch it up. That's how I was learned how to fix creases. The way Stanliner has made a popular method, especially by selling their tools that go along very well with this method, is instead of poking at the crease, you put your pressure on to the crease and you drag your Stanliner tool along the crease.
On that Pirate Hook, you rock that tool. Yeah,
and this one you rock. Yeah, I'm in general. Okay. That was the technique that, and the whole point was having that rounded backside, that was kind of bladed that you could drag with versus poke, is where Stanliner kind of broke the mold a little bit, or they made it popular, right?
Yeah.
Because the whole adding a swoop. Now, this is where I get a little bit finicky with Stanliner. I'm like, I get it that you made that popular. Like, I believe they made that dent repair process popular, and they made tools that made it a lot easier. But they are not the sole proprietor of a swoop on the backside of a metal rod, right? The Reaper rod, the fact that instead of it just going into a hockey stick, it decides to kick back a little bit and then go into a hockey stick. Stanliner does not own that, right? Like, that is not their thing. They have popularized the method to use a tool that's shaped like that. But I mean, I was showing you guys earlier is this. This is the A1 humpback tool.
Yeah.
I mean, that looks like a miniature Stanliner, but they've had this thing before there was ever an A1 or a Stanliner anything. This is my go-to, and if I have a freaking 3/8, I think this is like a 1/4-inch diameter tool, and it kicks up, and I have my Tesla tape around it, and I can get a really good soft push, and then I just turn it over, and then I have a sharp push. Like that's what Stanliner, I feel, is trying to say they own, is that this little hump right here is only Stanliner can make that kind of tool. That's what I feel they're trying to say.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad that you add that. That's how I feel, because ultimately we would need to have Thomas on here, and yeah, and if I get a chance, I'll give him a call. Things have slowed down for me a little bit, and I'll give Thomas a call, and maybe we can do a follow up and actually.
Well, I think we should,
Thomas, and hear from John.
We're going to get our hands on the Dent Reaper tools so we can actually know what we're talking about.
John has a little bit of a different perspective of what's going on with some tools out there, and likenesses or dislikes, likenesses of tools. And so, Mr. Collenbeck, how are you, first of all?
Doing great.
Are you staying warm?
I am. I came home and we actually went sledding with our girls.
Oh.
We had an ice storm today. So.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, but we're in the midst of winter.
Well, we missed you at MTE. We missed all of us at MTE. You missed seeing me at MTE, so I apologize for that.
Yeah, that's going to be hard to get over, but I'm getting a little bit of that flavor tonight.
Oh, good. Well, thanks for coming on. And so we were just having discussions about, like Daniel was saying earlier in the show, the differences between tools and what makes something unique. 30% of a patent difference is enough to be considered different. And then we got on the subject of integrity and stuff like that as well within, business and stuff like that. So, obviously there's we started off the show with a mission statement that was presented to the PDR industry, and John read that to us, and we've just been kind of talking off of that. And I know you haven't had a chance to see it or read it or anything like that, but can you give us some insight as to what's going on with the executioner tools?
Sure. And I would first say that I think there's a lot of integrity within the tool building community. I think in general, the tool builders try to stay in their lanes, and they try to respect what other people have designed and put forward. There is not a lot of proprietary protection, legal protections. Most tool builders have not gone to the trouble of getting patents. If they could get patents, they've not availed themselves to that particular thing. Regarding the executioners, this is a project that dates back to last summer, and John Bideen with Dent Reaper and Rick Hummert with Excalibur both presented us with the idea of building a tool and a concept that was very, very similar. And so when this happened, like I say, at the same time almost, we felt like we might be in the middle of it. And so we said, hey, to both parties, John, Rick, why don't you guys work on this thing together and see what you come up with? And, it's ironic that we were trying to accommodate everybody, and we missed a party, I guess, in that accommodation, so to speak. So anyway, we worked on that. We went through a lot of iterations of it. What we were trying to do was to come up with a tool that would primarily work on a top panel, hail damage.
Right.
That is exactly what we were trying to do. And I think that's what we've come up with. I think it's a very unique and successful tool. Unfortunately, in the process of releasing that, we offended the Stanliner family, which is a partner that we built tools for several years. And like I said, we came to our design, honestly, we weren't trying to do anything by way of copying from the Stanliner idea of the pirate hook or the crane is what they've alleged, which are not top panel tools. And I don't think Stanliner really does any top panel tools, hail damage type repair tools.
Right.
And I totally agree with that, but we don't have these new tools in our hands yet, so we couldn't really compare. We got a description from John, and that's what I assumed when I first saw the picture. Is I assumed exactly that. So it's good to hear you confirm that. And one of my point of view was. Overall, what's greater for the industry, and tool innovation is greater for the industry. And if everybody's afraid of stepping everybody's toes on tool design, we're not going to have any innovation.
Well, that's true. And I think what we've done with this executioner is something that the crane or the pirate hook wouldn't do. And what the pirate hook and the crane do, our tools won't do. And I don't think Stanliner is going to lose one sale of a pirate hook or a crane because we've come out with this executioner line. They're just different applications altogether.
Okay. And we have to say that you don't make any of those specific tools that they're.
That's
true, right?
That's true. We don't make the crane. We don't make the pirate hook. We made a limited number of the Stanliner positions. I'm not honestly sure that I've ever held a crane or a pirate hook in my hand. I don't go around looking on the internet very much either, and that may be to my own detriment, honestly. But I know the integrity which John and Rick came to this project, it was not to try to come as close as they could to those particular concepts. They were going after their own concept and design.
Yeah. And I think from what I've known from the many conversations I've had from both of those gentlemen, they're not the kind of guys that are trying to do that,
Now, I do have to say, when the release did come, the first thing that came to my mind is this is going to be a problem. I saw similarities to the point that I thought that there would be conflict with Thomas from Stanliner, only because there's a level of arrogance that comes out of that camp. And maybe that's not the kindest thing to say, because I do get along with Thomas very well. We've had him on the show. He's made wonderful tools. He's made, he's taken his father's vision and brought it to the market for all of us to share. But I'm like, there's going to be a problem with this. And I'm hoping that this is all going to blow away really quick. I think that's why we're discussing it this week, because by next week, I think it's going to, be already gone.
Well, I hope so. I hope it blows over very quickly. We tried to present our case to Thomas, and it didn't go very far. And that's okay. Like I said, I think he's come to his conclusions honestly, but I also know how we developed this particular line.
Sure.
Like I said, I don't think there's any likeness in the application. Materials are different. Tips are different. There's just a lot of differences. But the main thing was the intention was in no way to try to substitute or have a tool that's going to replace a crane or a pirate hook. That was not the intention whatsoever.
Right.
And I don't think that you could do that with the executioners. For what I'm seeing, I don't have them on my hand. Man, one point I made earlier on the show, John, was why was this the tool that they got an issue with, right? Because if anything, the Reaper rods were closer to a Stanliner tool. Heck, I even showed this tool. I've had this A1 tool for years. This is y'all's humpback tool. It's like, look at that little hump on the back there that you can use to drag and just swoop and do whatever you want. That's very much a Stanliner type technique. How come they never had an issue with this? How come they didn't have an issue with the Reaper rods? What was it about this tool that made them all of a sudden lose their mind? Well, sorry, that's a very brash and bad thing to say. They didn't lose their mind, but to get to the level that they're at now, I don't understand that.
Yeah, Hudson, I think that's a great question. And apparently it was the Reaper rod, which was released in June of 19, that really caused a problem. But we were not made aware of that being a problem at all until Monday, a week ago today. That was the tool that crossed the line. And so I said, Thomas, if that was the tool that crossed the line, you needed to tell me that 2 years ago whenever it was released. Don't sit on that. Now, again, they don't have any proprietary protections in these things, but nonetheless, had he come to me 2 years ago and said, hey, we have a problem with this particular tool, I think we would have been much more sympathetic than we are today, because we built a lot of tools around that dent reaper rod. I mean, John's got a mini version of it. He's developed a whale tail, the sickle or the claw. There you go, Hudson. Yeah, around that concept. So even if he had a patent, you can't sleep on your rights, and you have to be diligent in prosecuting any claim that you might have. He doesn't have a patent, but he still needed to be more diligent than what he was in letting us know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, John, we don't want to take up too much more of your time, unless any of my counterparts here have any other questions, or unless you have anything else you want to say before we let you go.
I would just say, go ahead.
What do you say to going forward to avoid stuff like this in the future? What would you advise?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what's going to offend somebody. I know one of the statements that Thomas made to me was that, this was something that we had thought about pursuing. Well, and I said that was great. We would have loved to carry that concept forward for you, but I can't read your mind. I don't know what you may intend to do in the future, as I wouldn't know what anybody intends to do in the future. So I'm not sure how we avoid it. Like I said, I think our industry does a great job of kind of keeping within our lanes. There's nothing legally that's keeping us there other than our integrity. And I think we do a pretty good job of it. If I wanted to make the Dentcraft line or the Ultra line, I think I could do so and make it indistinguishable to the technician if that's what I chose to do. And they too can make my line and do a great job with it. We don't do that. I don't think it would be well received in the marketplace if we tried to do that. Again, I'm not answering the question how we avoid it, but
I think you make a great point, though. That really says it all. I mean,
open, clear, concise communication.
Yeah, we do stay in our lanes. We have a small community. We're talking about something that really is pretty small in the big scope of things. So I think that says it all, really.
Yeah. One more thing I would say is that our relationship with Stanliner was really, really good, right up until the point that it wasn't. And I hate that, and I wish them the very, very best as they move forward. Maybe it's with another tool builder, maybe it's not, but I can guarantee you this. I may not be the smartest guy in this industry, but if I chose to copy a tool, I wouldn't choose to copy a tool with somebody that I was partnered with building their line. We sold hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of their tools annually. I'm not going to jeopardize that by trying to copy one of their tools. Like I said, I may not be a very smart guy, but I'm smart enough not to do that.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah,
well said.
Well, John, thank you so much for taking the time tonight and joining us for a short amount of time and clearing the air on some of the stuff that we had questions about, and I'm sure our listening audience did as well.
Okay, hey, guys, thanks for the platform. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you. Good night.
Take care.
Let me ask you some questions.
Yeah.
Because you've been around a long time. You've made some tools. People have copied some of your tools.
Yep.
So let's take it back to, and I'm going to lead you on a path here because I have an ulterior motive, but sure. I'm going to lead you on a path regardless. Because I think it's going to come to a point that some people need to hear when it comes into regards of PDR tools for our industry. Now, you made a tool back in 1994. What was it?
The balloon tip.
The balloon tip. Okay. And you've used that balloon tip. You've showed us that balloon tip throughout the years. On PDR Tool Time early on 4 years ago, before we even had that. You talked about it. You showed me it before, as our friendship was developing, 6 years ago. And you decided to bring it to market, right?
Well, I finally found somebody that can make it the way I made my original one. That was the big deal, is having it forged made all the difference in the world, because I had PDQ tried to make the tool and laser cut it. And they made it, and I told them, no, it's not the same tool. And I think that's what you were probably referring to, that you thought it was out there for a while. But it was, I was like,
Right.
don't even make it, because that doesn't work the same.
Okay, so last year you decided to bring it to market. You found a company to make it. You found Blem, which we had been telling you for 4 years that they forged whale tails, and you need to buy a certain whale tail from them, and you didn't believe us, and then you finally believed us and bought it, and then you went to them and had your balloon tip made, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So and then somebody copied it.
Right. So it was copied. And was it something that you kept on your radar, or did you put it in your rearview mirror?
You know what? I put it in my rearview mirror because it was made just like PDQ did it. They laser cutted it at a flat stock, and it does not perform the same way. Now, should I have made a stink of it? I could have, but then you're bringing more attention to it than it needs to be. But it could hurt me, because if somebody buys that tool from the other company, they're going to say it's garbage.
Right.
And so that makes maybe my tool less valuable.
Yes. Okay. So, because your fear is that someone would buy the copy that isn't going to perform the same because it's not forged.
Right.
And so they'll get a bad experience with a balloon tip and then never want to buy a legit forged balloon tip. That's your fear.
Right. And that's,
which I will attest to that.
And honestly, that's where Stanliner really comes into shine here with this whole argument, is their stuff is exceptional. Their craftsmanship on their tools is, bar none, some of the best I've seen anywhere. I mean, you look at someone that, like the pirate hook is a perfect example. You look at how that tip is shaped. It is weird looking. It is shaped weird. And I know somebody's sitting there on a grinder grinding that thing to make that shape. That's an hour or more time just grinding that thing.
I'm not done with my point with that, but along with that is there are variations of that. They're different. Each pirate hook is slightly different because of that. And one of the hardest thing of making any PDR tool is not to bend it into a shape. It's actually the grinding and the polishing of a tool. That's what makes that tool unique to something else. And one of the hardest things that you could find, to try and find a machine shop that's going to make that tool for you, and then make 100 of them, or 1,000 of them, or 2,000 of them. It's a very difficult thing to do.
I would say closer to impossible.
It is. I mean, we, Anson relies on A1 to make a lot of their tools, their rods and stuff like that, the tequila line and stuff like that, and they kill it. They do a really wonderful job doing it. Now, we sell a lot of tools. My point with you, with Daniel, is, and some other these small little guys out there, not that Daniel's small, but he is short, but he's got a big personality. And with that personality, when you come up with a tool, you think, oh my God, I just created the best thing in the world, right?
Right.
And there's a level of arrogance that goes along with developing a tool. I had it with my own Magnatech mat, thinking it was the greatest thing ever, right? The reality of it is, how many are you actually selling? How many balloon tips are being sold for you, Daniel? Does Blem knock it out of the park? Are you retiring next week? Are you retiring next month? A year from now? 2 years from now?
Yeah.
You're not.
And it reflects more, probably, what your point is it reflects more on your reputation, because, you never know what the next design is going to be. That could be the greatest thing in the world, and it could cross over into the body shop industry and blow up. You never know.
I want to go off that reputation thing you said there, because I think reputation goes a long way in this industry, and I think Stanliner has a great reputation for making good, high quality tools. Right?
No question.
Absolutely. No one's ever questioned that. This, unfortunately, in my opinion, this is simply my opinion, I believe they jumped the gun on this, and they've got a little bit of egg on their face, in my opinion. And I think they rushed to conclusions here before even having the tool in their hands. from what we've heard.
Yeah.
And I think this is a reputation,
because
scarring.
Honestly, does it help our industry if we see them go away with manufacturing tools in U.S.? I think it does. We're not going to see the availability of new designs in the U.S. And we all know the experience we've had. Vince, you made this point of, this is exclusive. And they do that a lot, where they come out with an exclusive design and it's only available at that show and never see it again.
Well, Daniel, in that case, we should add, I brought up the Stanliner section of A1 tool because A1 does make a lot of the Stanliner stuff. They do not make the 3 tools that we are discussing here. Those are proprietary tools to Stanliner. And so I can really understand the extra protectiveness that Stanliner has for these tools. Just because, they're made only at the Stanliner.
Well, does that exclude A1 then of their responsibility? I guess I don't.
I think that's an opinion.
Yeah,
I mean, if they were making those 3 tools, and then they made those other tools, I can see a bigger argument for Stanliner. Maybe.
Yeah, but I think we've said it so many times. You can only make a tab so many different sizes and shapes or textures. You can only make a metal rod so many different shapes and swoops and bends and curves, right? So I see. I'm kind of in the middle, but I'm leaning kind of like, I don't think A1 did anything wrong here, making the executioners. I didn't see, because here's my problem with this whole thing is Stanliner for some reason didn't seem to need to make a huge public display of like, we're against this when the Reaper rods came out, right? Mm-hmm. These are just miniature Reaper rods. Yeah. They're literally Reaper rods on a curved, smaller diameter tool. That's what we're looking at here. And if they didn't have an issue with Reaper rods, but now they have an issue with them being a small. And the crazy thing is the Reaper rods are closer to a Stanliner tool, to a traditional Stanliner tool, than what these executioners are, in my opinion there. Because these executioners are smaller diameter to fit into small holes to go into hoods and decks. And then the Reaper rods are big tools that you would use to drag and swipe and to drag your creases out with, which is what Stanliner is all about.
Yeah. And these tools are made by Kaz, and they take extra care. That's why they don't put it in anybody else's hands, because they're so specialized. I think it sets them apart that nobody's going to copy them in this country anyway, to that extent, maybe.
Yeah. There's a certain crocodile thinking of.
Well, not in this country. I'm saying it's like,
I know.
It would cost too much money to make it here, to compete. And they could take the high road and just like, hey, we're Stanliner, we're Snap-on quality of tools. Everybody knows that. Nobody, if you want to buy a tool from Kmart, then go for it, and it'll break in a week. Okay.
Well, I guess my hope is John and Maria and Thomas and Kaz can hopefully get together and have a good discussion on their end, because I think it's going to hurt to lose A1's production of Stanliner tools.
And honestly, that's where I kind of sit, is I want to see tools from Stanliner made in U.S. because they're just more readily available. I think it's valuable for us as an industry.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I think this makes our industry look terrible altogether for the manufacturers, tool manufacturers, whether good or bad. It's like, I know many people that have come up with stuff and that are predominant in this industry, and they get copied, and you either put it in your rearview mirror and trudge forward and come up with something better, different, and more productive, or you could sit there and dwell on it and sit there and I got copied and be a baby about it and
Well, crap. Yeah, there's a company out there that is copying people left and right, and we never talk about that company here, right? Because we never want to give them the light of day, because they don't have an original thought in their
and there was another company that did that, and they're no longer around.
I think he's around though, because someone else is copying those tools now. I think that one guy.
That's the company I'm talking about too. Right. So and so that's the thing. It's going to be happening, and I think I say kudos to A1 did not respond publicly to it. They've kind of taken the higher road here, and I think that's the way to go. Once again, not my personal opinion. But I really hope that Stanliner can be willing to maybe have a little bit more humility and try to come back to the table and have discussions, because I think it's a mutually beneficial relationship, and it's beneficial for us dent techs as well, having access to great tools. Yeah. A1 does a great job making those tools. Stanliner does a great job designing those tools. I think Stanliner went a little bit too far, in my opinion.
You know what? And there's one element to all this that you guys don't, that I thought about, and it's the fact that MTE did not happen. That generates a lot of business and a lot of money for some of these smaller companies, and they do not have that nut this year because of that. Stanliner is one of those companies that rely on everyone being at their booth, touching and feeling their equipment and their tools, and making decisions and purchases at that point. And they do not have that. They're out of the country. Tomas lives in Canada. His father's in Lithuania. He's not coming over all that often anymore. And Canadians cannot cross this border. So it's kind of, what do you do?
Yeah. So the whole point tonight is we were just kind of talking about this whole thing. We thought, why not record it, have a discussion. We still don't have we're not putting our flag in either side. We're trying to understand both sides, and we're giving our points for both sides. We can understand the frustration that Stanliner has, but we could still say you probably shouldn't have made that public post that.
My flag's kind of more in the camp of the industry on a whole. I want to better our industry. That's the whole reason we do this podcast, and help out other innovative tool ideas and tool manufacturers. We try our best to lend our opinions and add value to all that. And I want to see this come out with a good resolve, and because I want to see more tools out of Stanliner. I mean, they've taken our brains and taken it to another level of how to think about dents. I mean, the first time I worked with Kaz, and it was at MTE, and he was showing me the tool, and he took my hands to show me the nuances of how the tool worked. And it took that for me to get it. And that was incredibly valuable. And he is so talented, and he's got a great vision, but he's small in stature, and he's designed tools to do all the work instead of muscle. And I think that's really valuable for our industry, for helping out our bodies, because our bodies are wearing out after years and years of doing this.
Yeah, and I
think it's valuable.
He's like the same height as you, isn't he, Daniel?
Yeah, he's probably a buck 20 though, man. The guy,
he taught you how to waltz.
He's a little bit shorter than me, Vince.
He taught you how to waltz with his tools. I saw it. It was like
don't be saying that. You're not all that tall. Come on.
It was like watching a ballet. Black Swan, and Daniel was in the front. Kaz was in the back, and he had a full-on hug on him.
We made beautiful music together.
It was like Ghost. He was teaching how to make pottery.
Yes. That's exactly what it was. It was beautiful. Time stopped.
Whoopi Goldberg comes out of nowhere.
For your touch.
So, So just to reiterate, everything that we've talked about, we have had personal conversations with John Vadine. Vince has talked with S. None of us have any conversations with the Columbox, the owners of A1, or the Stanliners personally. So this is just us kind of spitballing, having our own little discussion here.
Yeah, we know that. We know that.
Hey, I'm covering all my bases here. All right. I don't want people thinking that we're going around like making these statements like
wave a white flag. We're not,
I don't want, I'm just covering it here. All right. We're letting you guys be a fly on the wall of our conversation pretty much is what we're allowing here.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, let's wrap it up. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a lot of work left to do.
I really just want to see more innovation, and I don't want this to stifle it. Being all worried about stepping on somebody else's tool design can stifle that, and that's the only concern I have.
Yeah,
I would just say my opinion is to end this is have some integrity in what you do, and integrity is not only when someone's looking, but when someone's not. Decide what you're going to do if you're going to make a tool, and try and make it different, and have some integrity behind it, because karma's a bitch. They'll come back and bite you. Well,
and also reach out to if you think you're encroaching on somebody else's design, reach out to them and have a conversation about it. Actually, John reached out to me because he came out with those. He came out with the teardrop. What was that?
The Reaper tears or whatever.
Yeah, the Reaper tears. And he reached out to me and he says, "Hey, I got this design. What do you think? Am I, stepping on your toes?" And I said, "No, you know what? No, it's totally different. Go for it." And I gave him my blessing on it. So I think that's where everything should start, and have a conversation with somebody else and keep it open and honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gentlemen.
Well, this was good. I think it was a good conversation, and we'll probably revisit this once we get tools in our hands and we can really know what we're going to be talking about. Is there any other burning desires that we have to talk about, Hudson? I feel that you do.
Who, me? No.
What do you got in your hand? You got something to show?
Oh, no, this is nothing to show. This is just something on my... that I was holding. Mm-hmm. This is my bottle.
I thought you were going to show me something good. Man.
Yeah, no. I will wait to show things whenever we are doing a video. Right now, we're just releasing this as audio this week, and so I'll wait for all the goody stuff for video.
Okay, and make sure you tune in to next week where we have Dan Ontrop on, and we'll pick up and resume from there, and PDR Contractors and what's going on new and great with him.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is really good information with PDR Contractors.
Daniel.
Right on.
What do you got to say?
Guys? Remember to level up your tools.
Don't do stupid stuff.
Embrace the crazy.
And keep it stiff.
Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all the industry and tool-related news every week.
Visit AnsonPDR.com for the largest selection of just about all your PDR tools, where you'll find hog glue and hog tabs,